Okay, this is Grace who's interviewing Chloe. Hi, Chloe. How are you?
Good. Hi, Grace. How are you?
It's been good. Okay, so Chloe and I we are actually at the same class for literacy development. And Chloe, do you mind just very briefly introduce yourself first?
Hi, I'm Chloe. I'm originally from Lexington, Kentucky, and I graduated from the University of Kentucky with an elementary education teaching degree. And now I have started my studies at Vanderbilt University and the Reading Education Master's Program, which I will graduate in a year. And I'm very interested in, after the program, in teaching elementary school, just being a classroom teacher first, and like second or third grade.
Right, that sounds so exciting.
Yeah, I'm very excited.
Yeah. So, actually, I just want to gather some information, your thoughts on a very particular topic that we discussed last week about critical literacy, because I'm very interested in how that idea could be really applied to the real classroom for your pedagogy for your students. So, first of all, I just wonder, what is your favorite quote in Luke's article 2000, Critical Literacy in Australia, a Matter of Context and Standpoint?
When I was reading the article, I really liked the quote and the section that said, "The focus on what a text is trying to do to me opens up discussions of the intention, force, and effects of text upon particular audiences." And I really like this text because I think it's important in classrooms to have critical discussions about text.
Right.
And when you bring in critical discussions on a wide variety of culture responsive texts, then the students then learn how to present their own ideas. They learn how to disagree with text, and they're also just informed about different viewpoints and intentions of text.
That's correct. Yeah, I really love that quote. And I feel like this quote also helps the students to discover the power relationship. Maybe those people who are marginalized in this text, who are being othered, that could be found in this article, that there are some facts that the students themselves even didn't discover, didn't realize that. For instance, like some ethnic minorities, like for those younger learners, language learners, they didn't realize their identity, or they don't really have a clear understanding about their social position. Mm-hmm. So maybe, during the interaction with the text and have a very deep thinking about their cultural identity could help them to really position themselves in this society.
Well, and then the topics of like whose voice is being presented in the article or text, and then whose voice is missing.
Right.
And then I also think it could talk about a lot of like point of view, and you could ask the students, well, why is this told at this point of view? What would happen if we changed the point of view and told it from a different group that was in the text? Right. How the story would change.
Right. Well, actually, I just wonder, do you think this kind of hard topic is too serious for especially young learners?
I think that it should be in the classroom. I think a lot of times teachers do not go into harder topics, as we like to phrase it, because difficult questions come up, and sometimes teachers don't want to present answers to their students. But I think that it is important to talk about all of these topics in the classroom, and to get away from the status quo of just talking about like acceptable topics in the classroom. I think that all topics should be talked about, especially if it's a problem going on in the students' community or in their own lives, because that is what they bring to the classroom and what they're focused on.
Right, that is so true. And also, what do you think of Luke's idea of critical literacy, as we discussed in class, especially that 4-dimension model he raised in the class, in that article? The readers as being code breakers, text participant, text user, and text critic.
So I really like this idea of critical literacy because it allows the students to see many different realms of language used in everyday life. Mm-hmm. The students begin to notice technical detail of the text, but they also understand the social context. This idea allows for students to get multiple exposures to different types of text and how to interact with them to form meaning. And I think all of these dimensions and a model of reading should be taught simultaneously in a lesson, because then when all four are taught, it gives students power and voice in their understanding of text.
Right. Awesome. So, so how could you, just wonder what kind of materials will you use when applying this idea to your classroom, and how will you design those activities?
So in my own classroom, I'd like to use these texts for students to understand and use to read the world. So like that they get exposure to texts that they will be interacting with in everyday life, even beyond school. And so then I think when they understand that it's texts that they need to learn how to read in everyday life, I think that then they understand why we do it in the classroom and become more motivated to be successful. And I would like to incorporate texts in my classroom that have a place in the social setting, such as workplaces, communities, government, school sites, etc. So I want my students to leave my classroom with the knowledge of how texts work in a wide range of social settings. And then I think through these texts, students will pick up on vocabulary knowledge that translate into the discourses used in everyday life. And then I also like to focus on student discussions where students share their ideas and thoughts from a text, maybe using like Socratic seminars. And I think within these discussions, we could focus on what voice in the text and what voice is missing from the text. And then the students will then learn from each other and also learn how to disagree and form their own opinions.
Right. I really love the idea of holding some regular seminars and let the students to bring their favorite articles that may tackle on those very serious social problems, right? And bring those articles to the seminar and have a very critical discussion.
Well, and I think that could be used in a higher education class like high school, but then I think it could also be used at a lower level.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe the topics can be like school bullying or disabled students.
Yeah, I even think in Metro there's one school that's piloting, I can't think of the program, but the Socratic seminar, and so they actually use them in kindergarten. And so in the school they'll have a school-wide topic for one day that they all complete the Socratic seminar, and so every grade participates in the same topic, but definitely at a different level. Like kindergarten would have a lot more basic questions than fourth grade, but I think that's interesting.
Yeah, and it's also going to be very interesting to see how the seminar goes, right? How the students think gradually from each seminar. Yeah, cool. Lastly, I want to know, during the activity, what kind of role does teacher play? And do you agree with Leland and Harste's idea about teachers as another non-neutral form of cultural practice?
I agree with that. Teachers should be another non-neutral form of cultural practice, because I believe that the teacher's background should definitely play a role in the classroom, but not as much. And I think that the teacher should be aware of all the cultural backgrounds and prior experiences for all the students, so then they can be a supportive teacher to every student in the classroom. But then I also think during the activities, the teacher should play a role as if they're learning with the students, and that a lot of the knowledge comes from the students. And so it should be almost like more of a lesson that the teacher plans maybe the engagement, but then kind of has an open mind from where the lesson's going to go from there, and really what's on the students' minds after they read the critical text.
Right. That is so true. And also, I feel like this context may be more realistic in the in the U.S. context, since you may have a bunch of students with different cultural backgrounds, with different races, and you as being a teacher that represents a particular race or a particular cultural perspective, how could you position yourself in this classroom, and how could you deal with those kind of tensions and conflicts among the students? I feel like that is the most important part. Yeah. Apart from just teaching them academic academic knowledge.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and I think then when the teacher obtains that kind of role, then it gives voices to all the students in the classroom, and a lot more students feel supported and confident in their answers, and want to share more about themselves.
Right. And especially for those being marginalized in the class and those who are being excluded by the majority of the classmates, how could teachers find the ways to help them or to support for their future studies?
Yeah.
To help them maybe build their self-confidence or to whatsoever.
Yeah.
What kind of support, right? Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Chloe.
You're
really
welcome.
Appreciate your time.
I like the topic.
Yeah, I
like
really
talking
enjoyed
about
our
it.
interview today. It's
Yeah.
really dense and really critical and really, really helpful for future teachers. Yeah. Thank you.